Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Panels. This week I thought I would class it up, so we are going to do some classic literature this week. Some fancy adaptations of famous books. Um, my first one is a manga title, Requiem of the Rose King, which is about the real life War of Roses, which is the House of York and the House of Lannister in an English Civil War. It was also adapted into some Shakespearean plays, and this was actually what inspired Game of Thrones. So this is like a more fantastical comic book adaptation, but this probably has almost at least 10 volumes now, and it is a fun series if you've always wanted to read some Shakespeare but didn't want to deal with the verse. So this would be a good alternative. And my next one is my first book that I've talked about from our juvenile section, but this is an adaptation of Frankenstein, but it is Disney's Frankenstein starring Donald Duck. So it's the story of Frankenstein, but instead you have surly Donald Duck as Professor Victor von Duckenstein. And Disney actually has a whole series of these that they do classic literature. So we have like Treasure Island and Moby Dick and Don Quixote and things like that. I've always liked the Disney books. They're always really well done, especially the old school stuff. But if you like Disney, if you like horror, if you like humor, this is a pretty awesome series to pick up. My next one is a series that is actually just graphic classics. There's a whole bunch of them, and we have a few in the system. The one I picked is Robert Louis Stevenson. And so it's just a really cool black and white anthology that has different authors and artists go over some of his more famous tales. So Robert Louis Stevenson, of course, did Treasure Island. He did Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, The Bottle Imp, Kidnapped, and so this goes over a whole bunch of them. So if you've probably heard of some of them, if you've been interested in them, this is kind of like a quick crash course. My next one is one of the older Image titles. This is Age of Bronze, which is the story of the Trojan War. So it goes over Homer's Iliad, but it's essentially the author's take on it. And in his adaptation, it's less fantastical. So in this one, it's more real world oriented, and the gods and goddesses and like the magical elements don't really have a part to play in this. There's still like visions and dreams, but there's no like gods and goddesses on the battlefield or physically taking part. So this is a pretty interesting, historically accurate one. This is also a black and white one, but it's really a labor of love and super detailed. So if you're interested in history, if you're interested in Greek culture, in Homer's works, this is a really cool one. And even though it's out of season, here's a Christmas one. This is Batman Noel, and this is a reimagining of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. But it takes Batman and puts him in the role of Ebenezer Scrooge, and it has Crane as Bob Cratchit. It has Bob Cratchit as a henchman of the Joker that just is down on his luck and turned to crime to provide for his ill son. And so it has Batman relentlessly chasing him on Christmas Eve. And it's a really heartwarming story in the end, but it's a neat twist. If you've read A Christmas Carol, or if you've probably seen at least The Muppet Christmas Carol or some sort of incarnation of it. So this is a different reimagining that's pretty neat. My next one I mentioned earlier, there's a Disney adaptation, but this is Don Quixote, but it is an it's a reimagining by Will Eisner, who is a famous cartoonist, illustrator that has the Eisner Awards is named after him. He's the one that created the spirit, and he also did a number of things throughout the years, including like army textbooks for like tanks and different things for when he was in the service. But this is his take on Don Quixote with his signature art style. He actually did a few. We also have his rendition of Moby Dick in the system too. So his art is always gorgeous, and Don Quixote is always an interesting story. Last one, we're going to get super highbrow. This one is adaptations of operas. And we have a number in the system, but this one has a few in there, including Pagliacci. And it's by P. Craig Russell, who did a whole bunch of comics. He's done he's worked with Neil Gaiman a lot, as well as like Marvel and DC. But this one is also an anthology. It has Pagliacci, but it also has a number of different ones in there. But the art is really gorgeous and fantastical, and it even has and Pagliacci is actually in black and white, which really lends itself to, you know, clown murder. But there's biographies of the authors of the original operas. So this is a really neat series. It's kind of weird and off the beaten path. So if you're interested in music, if you're interested in operas, history, this is really cool. So I hope everyone is additionally cultured with my highbrow picks this week. Hopefully you found something neat. Be sure, as always, to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you'd like to see something, and I'll see you guys next time.